Welcome back to Custom Crafts and More. My name is Karen. This week we have a Flippin Frenzy for you in collaboration with Sonic's Garden Blooms networking group. I received the objects you see here from Shelley at the Vintage Hen and Chick. We were tasked with shopping our own stash and sending another person something from our stash. So in project one, I used this little kind of palette almost from Shelley, and immediately, since I'm market prepping, I'm thinking fall, even though it's 100 degrees here in Texas. So I took out the Fusion Mineral Paint and I believe Tuscan Orange. Had a little trouble getting the cover off there and didn't want to waste any of that paint. So I made sure to completely get it off. And then I did 2 coats of the Tuscan Orange. I wanted to cover up the brown, but not completely. And this was a pretty rough piece, so I didn't do any sanding or anything. So I did give it 2 good coats, making sure to get between the slats and the sides and everything. I did not do the back, but being that this will probably go in my booth, I will go back and paint the back. The 2 good coats did leave some of the brown still showing through, which is exactly what I wanted. I had changed my mind a couple of times on this project. I went from making a pumpkin to possibly doing something where that was going to be the back fence, but as you'll see here, I did go with the pumpkin. There was a little footage lost getting those leaves and things on, and you seeing me play around with the box to make different things, but I did decide to continue on with my original thought. So I have this green kind of wired twine. It almost has like a raffia wrapped around it. So I took one of my really large glue sticks, wrapped that to make some curls for the pumpkin. I don't know what those are called besides curls. I'm sure they have a name, so please drop it in the comments. I happen to have some twigs that I had cut up from last year for pumpkins. And I was able to wrap those curls around there. So once I had the leaves in place where I kind of wanted them at the bottom, I did tack them in place with hot glue, being very careful because this glue gun, this Ryobi glue gun, does get very hot. So moving the glue little web things, I hate those things. I'm sure everybody with the hot glue has dealt with them a time or two. So on the back, I took 2 tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree so that this would stand on its own. And I stacked them kind of in a stair pattern since the palette had that little piece on the back holding all of the pieces together. So this allowed me, that was the perfect height for the tumbling tower block and that. So as you see, and there it is, I'm standing it up, making sure that it was even. So once I glue on this this twig for the stem of the pumpkin, I decided to glue it to the back and then just glue the leaf to the front. At the end, you'll see I decided not to put a bow or anything on that leaf. I just kind of left it as is, but you'll see me point here to the leaf as I glue it on, thinking like maybe I was going to put something there or not. So I brought those little curls kind of to the front and then got that green leaf on. I don't know, I still may look at this next week and think it does need a bow. And then when I was going through looking for the leaves, I found this cute little crow as a scarecrow, and this is what made me really decide to just keep this as a pumpkin. But he needed something to stand on, so I found these little hay bales in my stash. I tried to put a hole in them with the scissors. I do not know what these things were made of. Scissors were not going in there. I probably could have got the drill out and drilled a hole. But I figured since the scarecrow was going to get glued to the wood, I just needed a dollop of glue then on the stick to make it look like he was coming out of those hay bales. So this is a kind of a rough angle. As you see me gluing on, make sure I'm getting the glue in place. So sorry about that being just a little off camera there. And then just a little bit of glue to make sure that that stand is sticking into the hay bales. And this project is complete. You can see I'm like, do I want a bow? Do I not want a bow? You let me know in the comments. So project 2, Shelley had sent me this large decorative ladle. And so I took some fusion mineral paint in a very light gray color. I'm sorry, I don't remember what color that was, but I didn't want a complete white look against the black of this. But I just wanted a light dry brush to bring out the beautiful detail in this handle. And so in order to dry brush, I poured a little out and got a bunch, or what I thought was a bunch, off of my brush. But the dry brushing did go on a little heavy, but it was okay. It worked out. When you dry brush, you want to make sure that you go both ways so that you have marks that are not just going one way, so it looks more intentional. So, and then you see I just dry brushed a little bit inside. I knew I was going to put something inside this ladle to hang it up for the fall season. And since I did just hot glue the things, I think you could very easily pull the things out, maybe add something for Christmas and change it out for the seasons, a bird in the spring. So here I was thinking I was going to go more neutral. So I had these kind of cream colored pumpkins and the Spanish moss. So I am not a neutral girl, but I try every once in a while. And so I got the Spanish moss and stuff in there. And then I kept looking at these pumpkins and I'm like, it wasn't right for me. I was trying to put some burlap colored leaves in there and see. And so I found some color. And this I felt like suited it much better. And then I had these acorns stashed away that I had painted last season. So I thought they were the perfect addition to this. And then I found some leaves to add as well. So you see that here in a minute. You see kind of the oranges coming in. I tried these leaves too, but I felt if I was going for the neutral look, the oranges just were taking away from that neutral look. So we'll get these leaves positioned in and everything glued in together. And so while I'm doing that, I will let you know that I packed up a box and I sent it over to Kathy at Waste Not Upcycle. She does some amazing things on her YouTube channel, and hopefully the box challenged her a little, but was also had some fun items for her to upcycle, and you'll see that video either before or after this one. So there I am. I got the leaves, everything in position, just getting that kind of hot glued in just to tack it in. It's not for a permanent hold, so it can definitely be changed out. In the end, I was glad I decided to go with the color. Like I said, I try the neutrals so often, and I'm not a neutral girl. I'm a color girl. So you'll, throughout this channel, you definitely expect to see more color than neutrals. But I did keep the one cream pumpkin in there. And then we just glued 3 acorns in there. And then this project is complete. So we hope that you are enjoying our playlist and that you will stick around with us for all the premieres in this. So little note, this little ladybug is a little vacuum cleaner, and I'm going to put an Amazon link for this or something similar in the description box. I love this thing. So all that Spanish moss that I had all over, that cleaned it up perfectly. So project 3, Shelley sent me this wood dye. And at first I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this, and I knew exactly the color I wanted to use. So I got out Honey in the Cottage Colors from DIY. Now this has a top coat built in, so you do have to stir that top coat in and stir it a lot until your paint is a consistency from the bottom to the top, because sometimes the top can be a little more liquidy because that top coat comes to the top and is not as thick as the paint, so you won't get as good coverage. However, being that this was yellow and those dots were burned in, I realized quickly after a coat or two that this was not going to do it. So I still wanted to go with this color, But I felt like I needed a darker color that was going to help me cover up those dots. I could have got out the sander and sanded it, um, but at this point in the project, it just felt like a lot more work. So this next clip you're going to see, the dye will actually be green. So we pulled out the juniper in the cottage colors, and here I am giving it a second coat. And this did pretty much cover the dots. There were a few that were burned in a little deeper, so if you do look closely, you can see them. But at the end, I was planning on going over this with honey, and that still took about 3 coats, but I think it would have taken a lot more had we just gone with the honey. So here you're seeing the second good coat of juniper on here. And I don't know why, but I seem to have a really hard time painting. It was like my first time painting or something. You'll see here with the yellow, I really struggle for some reason. Some places it goes on thick, some it goes on thin. I had runs that you can't necessarily see, but yeah, I don't know what was going on today. I'll just blame it on not feeling well for this past week, and but still trying to get this video done and these creations done. So like I said, this took about 3 good coats of the honey to get the green covered up, and I did not get footage of it, but I did slightly distress to bring some of that green back. So you can just see I'm just evening out all the drips and the globs that I managed to get. So, but that's the fun of crafting, right? You just kind of do it till you're happy with it. So after that, I took these metal picture holders that I had found on Amazon. These are in gold, and these were very thin and smaller than what I thought they were going to be, but I really wanted the gold for the honey. So these were in my stash, so I cut them down to about the height I wanted them, and I knew I wanted 3 in there. So once I got these cut down, I took a pencil and I kind of marked where I wanted these to go. So I was envisioning 1 in the middle in the back, and then 2 kind of angled out toward the front. So you see, I'm just making my marks with my pencil. So, and then being that I was not feeling well, my son insisted that he use the power tools for me. So you notice this is him drilling in the holes that I marked for him. So this is his guest appearance, I guess, with his hands on my YouTube video. So everybody leave a comment, say hi to Andrew. So then once he was done, I came back in, made sure the fit was right, and we used a drill bit that was tiny because, like I said, these were very thin, and I wanted them to sit in there snugly. So they were in about the position. So then I got out my Titebond Quick and Thick, and I just dipped the edges into the glue bottle there and then into the holes. I did this on all 3 of them, and then at the end I did wipe off any excess glue on the metal. So once we got those all positioned, it was time for a transfer. Hindsight, I probably should have done the transfer before gluing those in. It would have been much easier, but they were fine. They stayed in there. So this is a transfer from, I believe, IOD's Lost Garden. And so I thought this was perfect because it flowed around to the sides. Now, being that I had just painted this and I heat gunned it, the transfer took a little bit long to get on. So you see, even though this is sped up and I deleted some out of it, it took a while over the edges trying to get some of those smaller pieces on. You can dry the cottage color paint with a heat gun, but you have to be very careful because of the top coat. If you don't move your heat gun or keep it on low, it will bubble your paint. So you just want to make sure that if you are in a hurry and you do need to heat gun that paint, that you just keep moving that heat gun. So with the IOD transfers, I held down the middle and I bent over those sides and just kept pressing, and I'd lift up every once in a while to make sure all those little bits and pieces of the flowers were on. And then I just kept going around the block like that until I got everything adhered. So there, I had very little cracking on the corners because this die did have a rounded corner and not a very sharp corner. So that did help in applying this. I probably could have put some relief cuts. That might have helped to lay it down and keep it laid down around the corner. But it all worked out in the end. Once that transfer was adhered, I did use the sheets to gently press it down. And then here we are, almost done with the transfer. So you do want to take either the white sheet or the transfer grid sheet, but make sure the grid side is up because that grid will transfer black marks onto your transfer, and you just want to burnish it down gently to make sure that you have no bubbles or anything in your transfer. And I did also give it a coat of a top coat of Big Top to seal in that transfer. So here's our final reveal of our 3 projects. So let me know in the comments, what would you have done with the items that Shelley sent me? Would you have done anything different? Would you add a bow to that pumpkin? So you can see the detail on that spoon. So we thank you so much for joining us. I know videos haven't come out weekly like I had promised, but we are going to get on a schedule, especially for the holidays. We have a lot of show preps coming up. So once again, thank you for joining us. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and like this video and share it out with somebody who you think might enjoy this content. Comment below with what your favorite project was, and let us know what you look forward to seeing in the future. Is it too early for fall? Because with market prep, that's where we are. It's going to be fall and Christmas soon around here. So thank you once again, and please stick around and follow us to the next person on the playlist.